You know, a lot has been made with Terrence Crawford vacating the WBC. I don't know all the specifics of that, honestly. Uh, and then I saw Keyshawn Davis say that belts don't mean anything. Belts don't matter, basically. Why do we need the belts? And I just feel like Keyshawn Davis sounds like a complete moron. And he's just saying that because Crawford said what he said. It's just so stupid when people say that. Let's look at Keyshawn Davis's case because he says belts don't matter. Why did you fight for the WBO title versus Baranchuk if belts don't matter? Why was that a main event fight if belts don't matter? Because if it wasn't for a belt, it wouldn't have been such a big deal. You won that fight, and then you had a homecoming fight in Norfolk, Virginia, your hometown. How come you didn't have a homecoming fight before you got the WBO belt? Why? I thought it doesn't matter. Ended up being you blew that fight versus De Los Santos because you missed weight. But why did you even have that fight in the first place? Because the belts do matter. And even your hometown fans in Norfolk, Virginia, they don't care about you unless you have that belt. So that belt does mean something. So this whole belts don't mean anything, it obviously meant something to him. It obviously meant something to the people of Norfolk, Virginia, because it's just not adding up. And all these people say belts don't matter. They do matter. There's a reason Crawford, he waited for Canelo to beat Skull to become undisputed. And then he fought him for the undisputed title because it does matter. There's a reason, Wilder wasn't Wilder until he got that WBC belt. And people then bought into him being a champion. So, yeah, it does matter to people in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where Wilder had his homecoming fight, to the people in, Norfolk, Virginia, where Keyshawn Davis had his homecoming fight, to the people in Washington, D.C., when Jarrett Hurd had his homecoming fight, Terrence Crawford in Omaha, Nebraska, when he had his homecoming fight, undisputed matter when it was Fury and Usyk. Like, we're pretending like these things don't matter. They do matter. Now, belts don't matter for certain fights and for certain fighters. Floyd Mayweather, McGregor, that doesn't matter, belts. I think for certain Canelo fights, the belts don't really matter. For Gervonta Davis, the belts don't really matter. But for 99% of boxing, belts matter. And here's another reason why belts matter. If it wasn't for the belts, a lot of the best fights wouldn't happen. And a lot of the best fighters wouldn't get to prove themselves. I'm going to give you an example. Alexander Usyk was the undisputed cruiserweight champion. When he moved up to heavyweight, because he was the WBO champion, he got to be a mandatory for the WBO heavyweight. Because when you're a WBO champion and you move up in a higher weight class, you get the right to be mandatory. He got the shot versus Anthony Joshua, and he beat Joshua. Then he beat Joshua again to become 3-belt champion, to get the IBF, the WBO, and the WBA. If it wasn't for the belts, there's no reason that Anthony Joshua would ever fight Alexander Usyk. There's no mandatory system in place. And people were demanding for that fight between Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk. So you need the belt system in order to get these fights to happen. Now, does there have to be 4 belts? No. Is the WBC on some shady stuff a lot of time? Yes. I don't know how all these organizations do their rankings because a lot of times it doesn't add up. But to say belts don't matter is completely ridiculous. It's just not accurate at all. And the belts being a thing is good for the sport. Now, I would prefer 1 belt, 1 champion, and we have someone who knows what they're doing running stuff. But to say, oh, no belts doesn't make a difference, I don't agree with that. How would you ever have mandatories? How would you ever know who's the best? And how could you ever bring in casual people to say this is a championship fight? So I'm sorry, Keyshawn Davis is absolutely incorrect in what he's saying. The belts do matter. Please let me know what you guys think. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Peace.